The Driftwood Lodge by Ryan Baker. The date is September 11, 2984. The location is the Barkby Sands. The Barkby Sands is a beach to the south of the town of Rivermore. Rivermore is a town in the Gothage Kingdom. The Gothage Kingdom is in the dimension of Octiviox. There is someone in the area. The person is Scott Morgan, the drifter. He had just arrived on the outskirts of the area. So, said Scott, that was certainly interesting. He had just was referring to his recent adventure. At that moment, he sees the Barkby Sands. So, says Scott, this is rather interesting. He looks around the area. At that moment, he sees a group of driftwood. He also sees some scattered debris. This gives me an idea, said Scott. At that moment, Scott proceeds to head over to the area. He soon arrives at the area. He starts making a makeshift shelter out of all of the material. He also finds some pallets. This should work for a good floor, said Scott. He also sees a box of nails. He also sees a hammer. Well, says Scott, that's rather convenient. At that moment, Scott starts working on the project. Soon enough, several minutes have passed. Scott manages to set up part of the shelter. This is great, said Scott. Soon enough, several minutes have passed. Scott soon finishes making the makeshift shelter. I must say, said Scott, I am impressed. At that moment, Scott thinks of something. I should get some food, Scott said to himself. At that moment, Scott sees the nearby town of Rivermore. So, says Scott, I should be able to get some food over there. At that moment, Scott proceeds to head over to the location. Moments later, he arrives on the outskirts of the town. So, says Scott, I'm finally here. At that moment, Scott proceeds to head into town. He starts searching the town. Soon enough, several minutes have passed. Scott soon arrives near the Whispering Bright a grocery store. Finally, says Scott, I should be able to find some food here. So perhaps some free food that they discarded into the dumpster in the alleys. At that moment, Scott proceeds to head over to the nearby alley. He soon enters the alley. He sees the dumpster. It is located next to the back door. So, says Scott, there's the dumpster. I should be able to find some food there. At that moment, Scott proceeds to head over to the location. Moments later, he arrives at the location. He approaches the dumpster. He proceeds to open the dumpster. He proceeds to search for the dumpster. Soon enough, several minutes have passed. Scott manages to find some food. This is great, said Scott to himself. At that moment, Scott proceeds to pack all the food into his bag. He soon leaves the alley. I should be able to get back to the shelter, said Scott. At that moment, Scott proceeds to back to his makeshift shelter. Soon enough, several minutes pass. Scott soon returns to his makeshift shelter. So, said Scott, I'm finally here. At that moment, Scott proceeds to get some of his items in the container. Soon enough, he completes his task. That does it, says Scott. At that moment, he thinks of something. I should get something to eat, said Scott. At that moment, Scott proceeds to take some of the food from the container. He proceeds to eat the food. That should do for now, Scott says to himself. Scott proceeds to start making plans. Meanwhile, in another area, something is going on. Magnahammer, a warbot, is in the area. He is currently driving his vehicle, the Thunderdome. It is a large carrier truck. I don't even know why I took on the job, said Magnahammer. Magnahammer was recruited to slay Corpran, a giant monster. At that moment, Magnahammer gets something on the radar. It must be him, said Magnahammer. At that moment, Magnahammer heads over to the location. Moments later, he arrives at the location. He sees the source of the blood. So, said Magnahammer. There he is. At that moment, Corpran turns his attention to him. Oh, great, said Magnahammer. He sees me. At that moment, Magnahammer thinks of something. That's one ugly creature, Magnahammer said to himself. At that moment, he sees that Corpran is an enormous mountain of flesh. He sees Corpran charge at him. Magnahammer narrowly manages to get out of the way. That does it, said Magnahammer. At that moment, Magnahammer transforms the Thunder Drone into mech form. Magnahammer proceeds to fight Corpran. Soon enough, several minutes have passed. Magnahammer soon wins the fight. Corpran dies from his wounds. That was certainly interesting, said Magnahammer. At that moment, he transforms the Thunderdome into vehicle mode. He proceeds to gather Corpran's corpse into the back of the carrier truck mode. He proceeds to leave the area. He starts making plans. He has no idea what will happen next. The end. The realms are vast. The battle's endless. Right alongside Chaos Call the Wanderer for Sanctums of Redemption and Shadow Worlds. Follow Tyr's Katarian, the half-elf ranger, as she hunts secrets that could alter the fate of all existence. Subscribe to fantasy and science fiction as Story Nori and join the Warrior Omega universe. Every tale it reveals a new legend. Ring the bell and step into the next chapter of destiny.